Mercy Me is coming to Pittsburgh. The Together Again tour with Mercy Me, Crowder, and special guest Andrew Ripp. Thursday, October 5th. Bring your family and friends to the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh for Mercy Me, Crowder, and Andrew Ripp live in concert. 3 multiple award-winning artists on one stage for one night. Let your spirit soar, your heart sing, and your faith ignite. Mark your calendars for Thursday, October 5th. Get your tickets now at mercyme.org.
If you follow the trends, you will fall for the traps. And so what I'm seeing is people are reading the headlines, they're listening to their broke friends, and they're going, well, my buddy told me I got to get Tesla stock, and my buddy said I got to get the Robinhood app, and I got to get my credit score up, because they're doing all these things, and they're wondering why they're not making progress.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Christy Wright Show, where faith meets personal development so you can have a bigger faith and a better life. I'm so excited because today we are talking about money. In fact, we're going to talk about 5 money mistakes you don't know you're making. And then I get to sit down with my good friend, fellow Ramsey personality, personal finance expert, and host of the Fine Print podcast, George Kamel. And we are going to talk about the fine print. Not just his podcast, we're going to talk about the details going into some of your money commitments that are really important for you to know, so you know what you're getting into and you can avoid even more money mistakes. But first, let's talk about these 5 money mistakes you might be making and you don't even realize it. You know, because I work for this company, Ramsey Solutions, I'm often in conversations about money. People will say, oh, you work for them? Oh, well, let me tell you how this changed my life, or let me tell you about my situation or my story. One of the things that absolutely shocks me at how common it is the fact that many married couples don't combine their checking accounts. Y'all, what are you doing? If you are listening to this show right now and you are married and you and your spouse have separate checking accounts, y'all, you are not acting as a team. You're not working towards the same goal. You're not working together. You're not maximizing your effort. When you walk down the aisle and you said, I do, and you vowed to share your life with this person, guess what? Money is a part of life. Money is a part of this thing that you're sharing. Now, I will say, in hosting the Ramsey Show for a long time now, I've noticed that there's a theme in some of the calls that we receive. Sometimes people don't want to combine their checking account because they think, well, we can actually be more effective doing it on our own. You can't. You can't. That's the answer to that. You are going to be more effective when you do it together. Always. Every time. In sports, whether it's a sports analogy of a team working together, or in a marriage working as a team, in money and in anything that you do, you will make more progress faster when you work together. Now, another common theme that I see in the calls that we receive from people that have not combined their accounts is that often there's some type of wound there. Maybe from a previous marriage where they didn't have any say in the money, and so they want to hold on to their own account because they're not going to let that happen again. Or maybe someone that has a fear that this person's going to control them, or they don't have a say in the budget or whatever. If there are wounds, if there are stories, narratives, situations that are keeping you from combining your accounts, let me tell you, keeping your accounts separate doesn't fix that issue. Keeping separate checking accounts does not solve your trust issue. You need to have a conversation about the deeper issue that is leading you to think you need separate accounts. Whether that is with a professional, sitting down with a counselor to dig into your past, your beliefs, your values, your fears around that thing, or maybe you and your spouse work it out together. I don't know, but I'm telling you right now, that keeping separate bank accounts does not solve the deeper issue of your fears and concerns that are going on below the surface. And by the way, I guarantee you those fears and concerns and wounds are coming out in other ways in your marriage as well, not just the bank account. It's worth looking into and solving at the root level. And by the way, when you do, put those accounts together so you can be a team working towards the same goal. Research shows married couples make more progress financially when they work together, which means you have shared accounts. So the first common money mistake that is so widely accepted is simply having separate accounts. You need the same account. You need a shared account if you're married. Number 2, the second common money mistake you might be making and you don't know you're making it, and this is similar to the first one, but if you have a business, and I work with a lot of business owners through Business Boutique, if you have a business, you need a separate business account. A lot of people run their business revenue and their business expenses through their personal checking or savings. Guys, this is a disaster for record keeping. It's a disaster when it comes time to pay taxes. And oh, by the way, you don't actually know how your business is doing because it is so jumbled and tangled with your personal expenses. Instead, simply set up a separate checking account. You can have a separate business debit card attached to it. You can have a separate savings account for your business, and then all revenue for your business goes in that account. All expenses come out of that account. Is it more inconvenient to go get your business debit card and plug it into Amazon when you're making a business purchase when, oh my gosh, it already has my personal card saved? I get it. Get off the couch and go get that card because it will save you so much time, so much stress when it comes to record keeping, tax season, and oh, by the way, you actually have an accurate picture of how your business is doing because you keep all of those transactions completely separate. So the first mistake is not combining your accounts if you're married. The second mistake is combining your accounts if you have a business. You want to separate those if you have a business. The third common mistake that people make when it comes to money is spending everything you have. Now, I will tell you guys, before I started working for Ramsey Solutions and before I became, really on the Dave Ramsey plan and understanding what it looked like to budget and save and so on, I thought if I had the money, I should buy it, whatever it is. So the question was not, is this the most important thing for me to buy? Is this in the budget? Is this a priority for me? Is it worth the money? It was just, oh, I want this jacket. This jacket's $50 and I've got $50 in my bank account. So I have the money so I can spend it. Guys, I learned something that is earth-shattering on this journey. I mean, it's pretty mind-blowing. So if you're taking notes, you're going to want to write this down. Just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it. I know. I'm here to share with you this groundbreaking news. I know this sounds silly, but we act as though it is that way. We act as though if I have the money, I should buy it. If I have the money, I can buy it. I want to go ahead and tell you how this plays out in life. If your only decision-making paradigm for purchases is if I have the money, I can buy it, you will never have money. You'll have a lot of stuff. You'll have some cute jackets, but you will have no money in your bank account because there's always more stuff that's available to you to buy. There's always more stuff that you want. There's always more beautiful things on Pinterest and Instagram getting your attention than you have money for. I don't care what you do. I don't care how much money you make. You can still spend it all. Do you know that 80% of NFL players are broke within 2 years of retirement? Do you think they didn't have enough money? The issue is not the amount of money that you make. The issue is you spend everything you have. And if you spend everything you have, you will always be broke. You'll have lots of stuff, but you'll be broke. So the third common money mistake that people make and they don't realize it is spending everything they have. Just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to buy the thing. Now, the fourth common money mistake is a little different, but similar to number 3, spending money before you have it. This is worse, okay? This is where you are going to make purchases with money that you hope to make in the future. Translation, debt. You have a credit card. You have personal lines of credit. You're taking out loans. You're spending money today that you don't actually have on debt. You're borrowing money from your future self. I'm not going to go into my whole soapbox about debt, but I will tell you this. If you live a life of debt, if you live a life of spending money before you have it, not only will you never have money, you're losing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest, penalties, and fees, and you are always coming from behind. Always. You are choosing to live your life coming from behind, keeping up with payments, where you are paying today for pieces you bought in college, where you are paying today for that couch you bought 4 years ago. And there's just something psychologically that is so defeating about paying for things you bought in the past. When you spend money before you have it, you will never get ahead financially. And we have tons and tons of research to show that people that win, people that build wealth, people that are able to give outrageously live a debt-free life. I don't have a credit card. For real. And look at me, living, breathing, living my life, traveling, getting rental cars. I stay in hotels. Can you believe they let me in a hotel without a credit card? Yes, you can live your life without debt. I'm doing it, and people do it all the time, but you've got to change your mind about what debt represents. Debt does not represent opportunity. Debt is choosing to come from behind for the rest of your life. The voice of debt is always the voice of regret. And I will tell you, in years of being on this team, being a Ramsey personality, coaching people, speaking on money, and hosting the Ramsey Show, no one ever comes to our debt-free stage. No one ever calls into the Ramsey Show, does their debt-free scream and goes, man, I miss those payments. Never. If you want to get ahead financially, you've got to stop looking at debt as a way to get there. When you spend money before you have it, you are making a huge money mistake. All right, are you ready for our fifth money mistake? Not having savings. Now, I know you should save your money. Gosh, I remember Dad telling me in college, my dad would be like, you need to save. I'm like, yeah. And then I wouldn't save. It was like something we understand intellectually, but it goes in one ear, out the other, and we don't actually do it. Now, if you're going to do what I'm teaching you to do, and you're going to live a debt-free lifestyle where you do not spend money that you don't have, then you're going to need savings. Savings for emergencies, savings for future purchases, savings for the car, the college, the new computer, business expenses. You need a savings for your business expenses. You save money and you gradually put money away, stock it away, pile it away, save it to be able to buy things when you actually have the money. It's a different way of managing your money, but y'all, I will tell you, the freedom that you feel when an emergency comes up and you have the money is unlike anything else. The freedom you feel when you want to make a purchase and you just transfer the money from your savings account to your checking and you make the purchase. There's no guilt associated with it because you're going into debt. The stress that you feel from an emergency is drastically reduced because there's not payments attached. By the way, Christmas is coming up. What if you paid for Christmas with cash? You didn't put it on a credit card that then is going to follow you into 2022, where you're paying next June for things you're going to buy this December. What if you did it differently? What if you saved up? Maybe you've been saving up and you're only going to spend the money that you have allocated, budgeted, and saved. Where then you start 2022 differently because you don't have this huge payment and bill following you from 2021. Not having savings is a huge money mistake that will increase your stress and make it really, really hard to make progress financially. These are 5 money mistakes that you might be making and you don't realize it. If you're married, you need to combine your accounts. If you have a business, you need to separate your accounts. You don't have to spend the money just because you have it. Definitely don't spend money before you earn it. And 5th, you need savings if you're going to be able to pay for the things that you want to buy and actually use cash. These are 5 simple money mistakes you might be making, but guess what? Now that you know, you can do something differently. All right, y'all, I'm so excited because I get to hang out with my good friend, fellow Ramsey personality, and host of the Fine Print podcast, George Kamel. George, thanks for being here.
It is so good to be here. This is, I'm first time on the show.
I know.
Long time watcher, so it's an honor.
Okay, let's tell them some fun facts about you because now you're an official Ramsey personality. You're a money expert. You are host of the Fine Print podcast. We're going to talk about all that in a minute. But you started as an intern? I don't even think I knew that until we did this shoot for Ken Coleman's show. But what's cool is you and I have similar stories in the fact that we started doing something different than what we're doing. So tell everybody a little bit about how you started here, because that's such a cool story of the beginning days.
Yeah, I was just happy to be here. So back in 2013, I was like, wow, I could work at this place. I'll do anything. Yeah. And so I was an intern and temp for a little while, for about 2 months, and I was just desperate to get in the door. And I said, I'll do anything. And so I found a spot in email marketing, and I went, I did some web design in high school. It's like pretty much the same thing.
I've sent an email before. Exactly. I can totally do this.
So I just I bought a book and convinced them that I could do this job. So that was my first full-time role here, was in email marketing, and I moved to social media for the personalities. And so I always loved what the personalities were doing was so connected to their message and trying to get that word out in a creative way that engaged people and helped transform their lives. And so over the course of a few years, 4 years in, I took over the hosting and MC duties, which Ken Coleman was doing. So live events, the live stream for the show, all these different things. And that over another 4 years led me to this role where I get to teach, speak, do all kinds of amazing things, host shows that continue to help transform lives, especially in the money space.
You know what's really cool, though, about your story, because I love sharing some steps in my story that got me to where I am, not because it's a formula that everybody can do it, but there are principles that you could take from this and go, oh, wow, you did it scared. You said yes to an opportunity before you knew how to do it. All these things that are parallels for what I've done. When I walked on my first stage speaking, I'd never spoken before. I figured out how to speak by speaking. And you, even with email marketing and those examples, and what's cool is, especially with the money space, you have been living these principles off camera for years. So you have this integrity of walking out the content, teaching, researching, working with people, even in your host role, as you got to talk to people and have this, front row seat to the life change, to what is working. And it's just so interesting. But at the same time, you were willing to raise your hand and be like, hey, put me in, coach. I can do that. Let me try. Yeah, I'll take that on. And I just think that's such a great lesson for people listening, feeling like, well, I'm not qualified or I don't have the experience or whatever. And gosh, you're just such a testimony of somebody that just figured it out as you went and made it happen anyway. So
that's so kind.
I love that. And a lot of our listeners and viewers are in the Business Boutique audience, and you worked directly on the Business Boutique brand. Y'all don't know this. George worked on this stuff.
It was like a startup, and we were like, what if we did this Business Boutique thing? And so I got grabbed. Yes. I was stolen to that team, and I was like, this is so fun. And we were learning how to do webinars, and we started doing events and traveling the country, and the energy. I miss the energy from those days of traveling with you guys, doing these events, and obviously the Business Boutique event it's epic. I mean, it's famous now for the energy and the content and the transformation that happens there. So I have loved getting a front row seat, watching you grow this thing and grow this tribe of women who are just on fire to grow in so many ways.
Well, thank you. I think it's so fun to think back to those early days, because people might see you now hosting The Ramsey Show, hosting your own podcast, which I want to get into in a minute. And just recently, you hosted The Ramsey Show by yourself.
Yes.
Guys, this is a big deal, okay? Taking all the calls, running all the board, the buttons, the calls, hitting the clock. I've never done that. Like, that is impressive that you did the whole show by yourself. And I think it's easy for them to see that and be like, oh, well, you just woke up there. You just woke up in that seat. And that's not the story. I love giving the backstory of you started as an intern. You're like, I will do anything because I believe in this company. And you took opportunities and you learned and grew and worked on yourself. That's led to what you're doing today, which is just so fun to see.
Yeah, definitely some pinch me moments there.
Yes. But you put in the work, which is just so cool. Okay, so I have been talking specifically in this show about money mistakes. And I think that a lot of people are making money mistakes and they don't even realize they're making them. And I gave some examples. For example, not combining your accounts if you're married, which is just a huge miss. I'm shocked, speaking of, how often we get this call on The Ramsey Show that people have not combined their money. And I just forget that that's common. That using debt, spending money before you have it, not saving, just some of the basics, because I think it's one of those things that we don't talk about it enough, and people can be making huge mistakes in their money and don't realize it. So, from your seat, now that you are fully in the money space, you're teaching this, you're teaching this not only on The Ramsey Show, but also on the Fine Print podcast. What are some of the things that you're seeing that really hold people back? And don't feel like it can be too basic, because I think sometimes we think everybody knows what we know because we talk about it all day, every day inside these walls, but the average person doesn't know this stuff. So what are some of the things you're seeing is like, man, these hurdles or these roadblocks, they really hold people back?
Well, for starters, I believe that if you follow the trends, you will fall for the traps. And so what I'm seeing is people are reading the headlines, they're listening to their broke friends, and they're going, well, my buddy told me I got to get Tesla stock, and my buddy said I got to get the Robinhood app, and I got to get my credit score up if I want to be winning with money. And so those are the kinds of myths that I want to bust with the Fine Print, help people understand all of these hidden truths that are keeping them broke. Because they're doing all these things, and they're wondering why they're not making progress. And they're comparing themselves to people that look like they're making progress who maybe really aren't. And so some of the biggest things I see is credit cards. The credit card.
You teach them about this because seriously, I have talked about this and I feel like they need to hear it from someone else.
It's the thing they go, I love Ramsey, but man, I'm not cutting up my card. I get my points. right? And so this is one of the things we dug into on the Fine Print. It's actually one of the first episodes we did on the podcast was all about credit card rewards. I call it the rat race because that's what it is. And it reminded me then of Chuck E. Cheese when you were young and you would go in with $20 and that would turn into tokens. The tokens would turn into some entertainment. And then you'd walk away with a pile of tickets that got you sticky hands and a pack of gum. And you're like, okay, let's backtrack. Let's reverse engineer this. So you spent $20 to get maybe $1 worth of stuff.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what's happening with credit card rewards. When you look at the actual percentages and cash back, you're getting maybe 2% cash back. And the average person, once they have their net take-home pay and what they can actually use their card for, if they say, I'm going to put everything on the credit card and get my rewards, and I'm not going to spend a dime more than I would have if I use cash. Yeah. First of all, I question that.
Yeah.
But second of all, the amount of money you're getting back is maybe a few $100.
Yeah.
That's not changing your life. That's not how you're going to build wealth.
Yeah.
The way you're going to do that is by having a plan for your money, doing a budget, living on less than you make, and paying for your own vacations.
Right.
And you can do that when you follow our plan.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I see that's holding people back that they just can't let go of. It's sentimental to cut up that card that they had since college that got them a free pizza.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I remember watching one of our old videos that we put out as a company. I mean, this is years ago, right? Close to when I started in 2009. And Joe Levitt was out doing kind of man on the street interviews, and he was talking to people about credit card points, like you're saying. And he asked this one young woman, and he was like, do you like credit cards? Oh yeah, I love them, And he said, well, how many do you have? She's like, I don't know, like probably like 17 or 18. And he's like, well, do you get what do you like about it? And she said, the points. I love the points. I love the points. I get cash back. And he said, okay, well, like how much cash did you get back this last time you cashed in your points? And she said $200. And he's like, wow, yeah, $200. And he said, how much did you have to spend to get $200 back? She was like, $30,000. And he goes, is that good math? To spend $30,000 to get $200 back? But that's what they do. These credit card companies are distracting you with the points, the rewards, the free flyer miles, the cash back, the free pizza, free t-shirt, whatever stupid carrot they're hanging out going, look at this awesome thing.
Yes.
You only need to spend your entire life savings in order to get it.
It's
and
insane.
So I love how you're shining a light on that and just exposing the truth behind some of the games that these credit card companies are playing. What do you think is the biggest thing that people need to be aware of in order to avoid that trap? Because I know you dug into one thing you said of people think, oh, well, I won't spend a dime more. They do spend more money than they plan to. What are some other things around points where we get stuck there?
There was a Bank of Austin study that showed that you spend 409% more using a credit card versus cash.
409.
Yes, it was insane. And we also find that 31% of people never even redeem their rewards. Wow. There's a lot of reasons for that. You forget, there's restrictions, there's blackouts, and the point system gets so confusing.
Sure.
And guess what? They can change the value of what those points are worth at any time.
Sure.
And so the companies know this. There's a reason they do points instead of cash, because your brain goes, I have 40,000 points. What does that mean? Oh, it's $4.
Right.
And so you've got to actually understand that they're doing this to gamify it. And we actually talked to an ex-Capital One employee on the podcast, Elena, who really unpacks the 10,000 social experiments they do on people to get them to spend more, to get them more ingrained in the system, to get them to play this game so that they think they're winning.
Right. And it's so interesting, too, because we really believe that they are for us. Like when we watch the ads, we think, oh my gosh,
they're my friend.
They're helping me out. It's free money. Yes. And it's like the fact that we fall for that is just crazy to me. Honestly, if I didn't work here and wasn't so ingrained in it all day, every day, it's a very powerful influence, persuasion, psychology. Like the thing that they are studying is not just money and even behavior. It's the psychology that leads to that. And they're preying on that. Yeah. And so I think that is so good that you're shining a light on that.
This is the craziest part that a lot of people don't think about.
Okay.
When it comes to credit card rewards, you got to think, where are these rewards coming from? When you really dig into it, it turns out all of the money that you're getting back is being made off of the backs of people who are struggling with money. It's on the back of the single mom who can't afford her payments, who's paying late fees and interest. And when you think about it that way, it just makes you feel a little gross. Yeah. And you go, do I want to be a part of this system? Do I want to even support this industry that is hurting people financially? Yeah. And I'm winning because of it. I'm standing on the top of all these people going, look at me, I'm winning, I got a free flight. And all these people out there are struggling. You got to draw a line in the sand and go, what are my values? And if my values are, I don't want to be a part of a system that hurts people financially, then you got to go, all right, I'm not going to do the credit card game anymore.
It's so powerful, too, when you just take it off the table. And you can do that with credit cards or student loans or anything. When you take it off the table, you find a way to manage your money, pay cash, pay for college, whatever the thing is. But as long as that option is on the table, the easy option, because it's so much easier to sign your name to a student loan or to swipe a card than it is to go take cash out or budget or, watch your bank account. I mean, if the option is available, you'll take it. But if you take it off the table, you start to get creative and just be more disciplined. People are shocked that I don't have a credit card. Like, how do you live? How do you live? How do you travel? I do. It's crazy.
And the same thing applies
cash.
to the credit score. How do you live without a credit score?
Right.
You can't do anything. You can't leave the house without a credit score.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing we tackled on the podcast because it's so tied to the credit. I mean, one of the reasons they say is rewards, and I got to keep my credit score up. That's why you go into debt. And so they're so connected. And so one of the things that we teach also on the podcast is about credit scores and how it's a giant scam. Yeah. That's all it is. And you don't have to play that game. You can do all the things you think you can't do without a credit score. You can rent cars. You can buy a house through manual underwriting, which is something else we talk about heavily on the podcast, something I did personally.
Right.
So I'm not, this isn't theory. This is a reality that I've lived. Getting a hotel room and the car loan stuff. You don't need a credit score because we're paying cash.
Yeah.
We're not going into debt for a car.
Yeah. Half of the battle, I feel like, is just making people believe it's possible. And once they believe it's possible, then we can show you the plan. We can show you the baby steps. We've got the tools from the podcast to the Ramsey Show to the books that can show you how to work this plan. But you have to believe it's possible. And as long as you think, well, you're the exception to the rule because you're not getting scammed by credit card points or you're not spending too much money, then you miss out on the results that we've seen millions of Americans have from following the baby steps and from following this financial plan.
Yes.
George, I know you love taking on these topics, especially in the Fine Print podcast. Tell people a little bit about what the podcast is and where they can find it before we wrap up.
Absolutely. So the Fine Print with George Kamel, the hidden truths that are keeping you broke. And really, I want to uncover all these money traps and help people avoid them. And this is a different podcast from all the shows on the Ramsey Network. This is narrative storytelling. It's crafted. It's about 30 minutes an episode, and it's every other week. So you can get through these. Season 1 is out now. All the episodes are out. And we really want to help people understand this way and do it in an entertaining way.
Yeah.
So I want to entertain and educate. We have industry insiders, outside experts. We hear real stories from people, and I'm doing all these interviews, trying to weave this all together in kind of a crafted way that helps people change their paradigm, change their habits to change their life. So we're hitting all topics around money, and it's really the only place you can find a topical piece from Ramsey. I mean, you can hear a call on the show or read a blog, but nowhere else do you just have a deep dive on credit card rewards and credit scores and bankruptcy and DIY investing and all kinds of topics. So if you want to be more educated and feel like I'm confident with the choices I'm making with my money, this is a great podcast for you.
Yeah, and I love, too, how you take on things that are very current and relevant. So, like, for example, Afterpay, I'm sure you guys have seen this where you go to check out and it's like, oh, do you want to pay for this in payments? And it's only 3 cents, and you're like, I don't know, is this good or not?
You can do it on a pizza now. It's insane.
You really unpack what's going on behind the scenes so people are informed and they can make better decisions to not be broke. So this it's really powerful. You've done such a great job, George. You have worked so hard to get to where you are, and you deserve every piece of it. Tell people, too, you're hosting the Ramsey Show. You've got the Fine Print podcast, so they can find you either of those places. Tell them where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. So I'm at George Kamel, which is with a K. So Kamel,
Sure.
George Kamel with a K, all over the place there. And I'm also hosting the Entree Leadership Podcast.
Yes,
I know
that's right,
a lot of business listeners out there.
Yep.
This is a great podcast if you're into business and leadership. We talk to experts, authors, speakers, Ramsey personalities. You're a frequent guest on there. And so I'm having a lot of fun hosting all the things, and especially hosting the Ramsey Show with you. Always a blast.
So fun. Well, George, you're awesome. Thanks for being here, and thanks for teaching us today.
Thanks so much.
All right, y'all, it is that time in the show when I get to take your calls, hear your stories, and answer your questions, which I absolutely love to do. So we are going to go to Charlotte, North Carolina with Christy. Hey, Christy, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Good. What's going on?
So my question for you today is, how do I manage my money in my business? Would I follow the baby steps?
Okay, let's talk about it. What is your business?
So I help realtors build processes and systems for their business, and I do it all over the East Coast.
Okay, cool. So this is your full-time business?
Yes.
Your only source of income?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Now talk to me about your personal finances. Do you have debt?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you have a fully funded emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months of your personal expenses in a savings account that you can access?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Well, you are just trucking along then, Christy. Are you investing 15%?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay. So that would be your next step. When you said to you follow the baby steps, here's how I want you to look at it. You have your personal finances that you would manage like you would even if you had a full-time job with a salary and a steady paycheck. You take that income, you're going to budget it every single month. We recommend the Every Dollar app through Ramsey Plus, where you give every dollar a name, you tell your money where to go, you plan for all your expenses from food, shopping, electricity, mortgage payment, anything that you have. And you want to budget your money as you work through what we call the baby steps. So you are on baby step 4 right now, which would be where you begin investing. Now, this is not something I want you to do by yourself. I don't do it by myself. My husband and I sit down with an investment professional. We actually have an entire team of people that you can find at RamseySolutions.com that will walk you through what investments you're going to look into, how you're going to invest, where the money goes, how the money grows, what you need to look for. They're going to have the heart of a teacher, and they're going to explain all of this to you, because this amount of money, as you start investing, especially now that you don't have any debt and you're going to start early, could grow into a lot of money. So you need to understand where it is, how it's growing, and what to expect and that type of thing. So what you want to do is you want to go to RamseySolutions.com. You want to sit down with one of our SmartVestor pros. They will walk you through how to look for your investments, and they will actually walk you through doing that for you. They will help show you how to allocate your money. Now, do you have any kids, Christy?
No, I do not.
Okay. And do you own your home?
So I am renting currently.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23, Christy. 23. You got your own business. You're debt-free. You're amazing. You're doing incredible. Okay, here's one thing I would say. So because of your age, you're possibly going to experience some major life changes in the next 10 years. You may buy a home, you may get married, you may have kids, all these things. So that will slightly change the baby steps, meaning you might start to save up to put a down payment on a house. So if I were you, I would start allocating money. In addition to your investments, I would allocate money that you're going into a savings account for a down payment above and beyond your emergency fund. And then, of course, a wedding. If you decide to get married, if you have kids in the future, you will then begin to fund their college. But you're not there yet. Right now, all you're going to look into is investing 15% of your income into a mutual fund, into a retirement account. And an investment professional can help you do that. And then if I were you, I would save up for the house. Now, for the business, let's talk about the business really quickly. The business, I want you to look at the business as a separate person. Yes, it's yours, but you want to treat everything completely separately. So you need a checking account, a savings account, an emergency fund. You need everything for the business completely separate. And that's going to make it a lot easier on you when you're filing taxes, keeping records, all of that good stuff. And it's just going to help you have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the business. So if you haven't already, go ahead and set up those separate accounts. And then you're going to budget for your business just like you budget in your personal life. The only difference is in your personal finances, when you're setting a budget, you have the past 2, 3, 6 months to look at for some type of gauge of, okay, I spend about this much on groceries, or I spend about this much on gas. So you have something to go on. In your business, you're going to have that as well. But with a business, you might have more seasonality. You might have more of a roller coaster. It might change more year over year than your personal finances do. So just think of the business budget as more of a projection, more of a guess, more of a goal, an educated guess or a goal that you're going to work toward, not so much a budget in your personal finances that you're going to stick to. So it's a little bit more flexible in the business since there are more variables and definitely some things that can change. But you're doing amazing. You're already doing so many of the things that you need to do to set yourself up for success. Just keep your business finances completely separate, work on investing, and then save up to buy a home. And you're going to be, Christy, if you do this, you are going to be set up for your life. You are going to be so successful, so wealthy, and you're going to have all the options in the world to do anything you want to do. And so well done. Congratulations on doing such a great job. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. You can tune in next week for another new episode of The Christy Wright Show. And as always, for more encouragement on becoming the person you want to be, visit ChristyWright.com.
Mercy Me is coming to Pittsburgh. The Together Again tour with Mercy Me, Crowder, and special guest Andrew Ripp. Thursday, October 5th. Bring your family and friends to the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh for Mercy Me, Crowder, and Andrew Ripp live in concert. 3 multiple award-winning artists on one stage for one night. Let your spirit soar, your heart sing, and your faith ignite. Mark your calendars for Thursday, October 5th. Get your tickets now at mercyme.org.